So close. Welcome back, y'all, to the Ohio River Valley, where we try to do some cinematic stuff, but the hardware just isn't there yet. Baggy Sue, forget about the hardware. What am I looking at? I'm glad you asked. Last episode, I said I was going to narrow the scope of what I was building in this episode, and I meant it. I want to experiment a little bit and just focus on a small section of the city. 2 episodes ago, I got a few suggestions on what to do with the city, and I'm doing one of them today. More to come on the other suggestion in future episodes. The suggestion I want to talk about today is from an Apple, and they suggested I should check out the Riverview Apartments. And let me tell you, this was an instant get for me. So today's episode, we're going to take a little step back and just focus on this small corner of the city. We'll be building out a few car-centric businesses, as well as an apartment complex using the Riverview assets. So as per usual, we need to clear out some trees and start putting down some roads. Maybe terraform a little bit as well. Like many apartment complexes, we'll be adding enough parking for everybody and their grandma to have a spot. In future episodes, we'll likely see some public transport lines added to over here as well, but for now we need to make sure everybody's got a spot. Once that's done, I'll get rid of the crosswalks and the stoplight because we don't really need it here. And then it's time to place down the first building. The Riverview Apartments come in 3 different varieties. Some of them have parking, some of them don't, but we will be adding all 3 here just for a little bit of flavor. You can see here this one has some parking in the back, so we'll just run an alley down the way and then put on some these parking assets. Like I said, everyone and their grandma needs a parking spot, so I am not skipping out on these parking lot roads. Now after I cover half the buildable area in parking, we can add in some of the other buildings. But before I do, I just want to stop and admire these assets so far. Shout out to Vincari, the mod author, for this amazing work. I also have a few other assets on the PDX mods page that I will also be trying to implement later in the series. But look at these. These are exactly what I've been missing in this build. And they even have some downstairs areas, which is awesome. I'll just connect that to the road and get back to building. I'll add a little extra concrete for some sidewalks for the place, as well as add in some of the grass textures just to, change it up a little bit. An apartment complex isn't complete without some amenities, so I'll come over here and add in a couple basketball courts. And I'll get rid of those awful colors too while I'm at it. And then to make it feel a little bit more custom, I'm going to get rid of some of these props and the fencing so that I can do it all myself. I'll add in a few extra lights, put a new perimeter fence around both courts, throw down a couple of decals just to rough the place up a little bit. I'll continue that along all the roads as well. This apartment complex has definitely seen better days, but in my mind, it's probably one of the more affordable options for housing in the city. And unfortunately, it kind of got to reflect that with the low maintenance, I guess you could say. But I'll throw in a couple of asphalt patches to make it look like they're at least trying to keep it in some sort of repair. To emphasize the low maintenance, I will run through here with a few patches of dirt. And some vegetation. Either from lack of care or for want of privacy, I'll also be adding a bunch of bushes and trees up the slope to kind of block off sight of this apartment complex. Back at the basketball courts, I'm imagining some of these basketballs will be going over the fence pretty often, enough for a dirt path to have formed going around the fence. And then to really sell that idea, I figured out why not show it. Here's a basketball on the other side of the fence, and another one deeper back here in the bushes that is just forgotten. Back to adding a few more decals out onto the road to really flesh it out and make it look as beat up and worn down as possible. I also really like this decal, I just didn't know what I wanted to use it for, so I just placed it to the side for now. And so far it looks like the complex is coming together. We can really tell the wear on the roads and the basketball courts. To ensure that nobody could get into the abandoned housing project, the city would probably put another fence down below to keep people from climbing. Although it doesn't really help that much, as we can see all the graffiti. But the city tries their hardest to hide something extremely obvious. Add a couple trees there to block sight from the people who live the closest. And a big open field is just begging to be used. So I'm going to use a few of these dirt surfaces to show some scuff marks from where kids play some pickup football or soccer. Really show the wear in the center field and then in the two end zones. And then how do they get there? Well, they got to walk on the grass, of course. So here's a few of the common footpaths that the kids will probably take. And then to reinforce that idea, I'm going to put down a few of these cones here to show where an end zone is and, maybe where the boundaries of the field are. Maybe there's a couple chairs here for some of the parents. I even go as far as adding in some kids here. Maybe they're about to start a game or something. And I'll add in a few of the parents here to make sure they're not getting a little too rough out there on the field. And I guess you could say they're on the edge of their seats. But also, let's take a moment to appreciate the looming project. And since I added those kids in the football field, I felt like I had to add some kids standing on one side of the fence yelling at their friend to get the ball on the other side. And of course, I'll add in some more trees after deleting them initially, just to make sure the apartment complex has a nice little canopy surrounding it. Revisiting the decal from before, I decided to make this kind of the garbage spot. And I'll add a car for somebody who's about to throw some trash away. I'll add a couple of the UK laundry lines as well, dotting the apartment. And one abandoned shopping cart on the side of the road. Back at the dumpsters, I take it one step further and put a garbage bag on the hood of the car with the driver ready to throw it into the can. If you know, you know. To reduce the risk of accidents, the city has put down another fence lining the highway on-ramp. And I would imagine a slope this steep on the on-ramp probably has some gravel siding it. And probably a couple overgrown bushes and trees. Alright, and that pretty much completes the apartment complex for now. I might go back in and add a few more details later if I think of something. But now I think it's time to add in a few more car-centric businesses. We're on the outskirts of the downtown, so I think that makes sense. And it would also help out the complex a lot too for people to get some things they need. Once again, I'll start by flattening the area and removing some trees. And with the businesses being this close to the highway, I think for their protection and probably sanity, I'll put up some sound barriers. I'm using the French walls here to make a disconnected sound barrier. These are pretty common. I mean, I couldn't find something exactly like what you usually see, but I thought these represented it well. Just off an interstate exit, you'll find at least 3 things: a gas station, some food, and maybe a auto repair shop. And so that's what we're putting in this little corner here. For the repair shop, I'm using a static ploppable of the taxi garages, I believe, and then I'll use a Japanese commercial asset as like the main building. I'll get rid of some of the props and then I'll do a little bit of surface work on the whole area. Oh, and I'll add some trees. I'll give the gas station just a little bit more parking and fix up some of the surfaces. I'll put a metal fence around the repair shop to keep any possible thieves out. And then I'll add a few decals to show that the years have not been kind to this corner of the city. It's not the nicest rest stop, but it is the last one before you head out of downtown. Alright, and then I'll detail out the auto repair store before showing off what all we've done today. Side note, I tried to make this look as close to a school bus as possible. I don't really think it worked. Alright, and here we are. Nothing too crazy detail-wise, but I think just enough to show it's a nice little corner of the city. Well, maybe not nice, but you get what I mean. Also, I don't like this park, so I'm going to delete it. In its place, I have something in mind that I'm going to work on, but it's been giving me a little bit of trouble so far, so we're not there yet. Alright, that's gonna do it for today's episode. Like I said, short and sweet, but I feel like we were able to fill in some of those gaps, so not too bad in my opinion. If you like what you saw today, please click the like button and consider subscribing. It would really help with the mystery that is the YouTube algorithm. Also, comment on what you like, what you don't like, maybe a suggestion or two, maybe a detail that I missed. And with that, thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a good one.